Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. So today has actually been really eventful so far. Our gazebo is gone. I can't even believe it's gone, Aaron. That's crazy.
It is. It's nuts.
I know. Like, I knew it was going to eventually go, and we will have a video for you guys. I kind of posted little snippets in my stories on Instagram and Facebook, but we will put together a fuller video. In fact, I had intended on planting seedlings out in the cut flower garden, and then I got completely wrapped up in watching what was going on over here that I didn't really get any of that done. Anyway, so it's, yeah, definitely started out, this week has started out with a bang, I guess you could say. But I'm excited because as the top of that, like the hood of the gazebo was lifting, I felt a weight being lifted. It was weird. I thought that I was gonna miss it a lot, just initially, because it's such a presence in our garden. But I don't. I feel like it was a mental block for me in terms of like being able to visualize how the Heartleaf's gonna look, and now I can see it. Yay! So anyway, that's what has been going on today for us. Now I'll get into the videos from last week. So the first one was unboxing Gardener's Supply and Gecko, which is like hose accessory equipment, and a quick look at our front yard demolition. So in that video, we just had a few boxes from Gardener's Supply and Gecko show up, so we thought we would unbox them for you guys because we had showed them in the background of like one of our videos, and there were a lot of you who said like you wanted to see what was in them, so we decided to do that, and then just gave a quick tour of what the front yard's looking like, which we're getting close. Yep. We're getting close to sprinkler system and grass, very close. Top comment was from Kevin. Our oldest son is off to college in a few weeks. When he was younger, he called hosta plants hostages. My wife and myself still call them hostages. Son thinks we're crazy.
We do that with a bunch of things that Benjamin says.
I called a sprinkler a sprinkle in there, and then I swore I didn't say it.
Yeah.
And then watching the video back, I did say, like, oh, this is a rectangular sprinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to go look at the sprinkles outside. It's so cute. Christy Bear Design says, does anyone know what that very dark foliage bush is around 1535? That is a black lace elderberry, and that is one that looks like a smaller shrub, but they get massive. We cut ours back pretty hard every year, like waist, hip height about or so on me, every single year, and I think we could even take them back further than that.
That one's practically in the shade though. I wonder if that one stays a little bit smaller, just given the fact that it doesn't get a ton of sun.
Yeah, I think it does. It's really pretty. It still gets big.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah, it does.
They're excellent, excellent plants. KPier62 said, quick question, if I put Biotone in soil when planting, do I need to add any other type of fertilizer on top of that afterward? Not for a while. I would say that maybe like a month later or whatever, you could fertilize, but typically like when I'm doing a new perennial or a new shrub, I use Biotone when I plant, and then I actually don't fertilize it for the rest of the season. We just hit it the next time we do our fertilizer round, which is usually sometime in the spring.
You know, Espoma's bag says that you should fertilize your roses like once a month during the growing season. I feel like we should try that one of these times.
Because we've never done that.
No. I mean, because we do it in the beginning of the season.
You hit them once and it's like, please make it through the season with this one feeding.
Yeah, but we should try it.
We should.
We should basically just like do the recommendation and see what happens.
Yeah. Jill said, will you reshape the very front flanking garden beds to be more symmetrical? They were where you planted the Gumfrey 2 seasons ago. Those will be gone because, so as you are looking toward the house on the new walkway, everything to the left will be flower bed. And then on the right, there will be a flower bed, but it won't be quite as deep as the one on the left. The house is not symmetrical and it never will be up there. So I'm not going to worry too much about creating symmetry. But I think having deeper flower beds on both sides will be very nice.
If you designed a brand new house, would you make it symmetrical?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, I'd do like door right in the middle.
Yeah.
And windows on the sides. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's kind of like a lot of the Georgian houses. That's kind of what and colonial, a lot of them are very symmetrical. And that's kind of what Aaron and I, both of us kind of lean toward liking that style.
Yeah.
Annie said, all the dirt just doesn't even look like your home. Wondering why you're doing seeding instead of pallets of grass. Is it a cost thing? Yep. How much is sod for that space?
I looked it up at one time. It would be, I want to say it would be like over $100,000 to sod that area.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong in that, but
I think I remember you saying
expensive.
that, like close to 100,000 or a little over. we don't have $100,000 sitting around for sod, so seed it is. Cynthia said, I'm a little confused about the grass. Will it cover the existing driveway to get to the new property, making it so that you can't drive the whole way around the property anymore? So what we've done, the grass will cover over the old driveway. So now,
but only a portion.
Right, only a portion. The driveway still goes around the house, it's just a much bigger loop. So instead of cutting in front of the house, it now goes into our new property and cuts across further down the line. It is a little bit of a weird thing to get used to, though, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm having to rethink the trips, like when we're going around in the truck. When you're on the Gator, you can go any direction you want, but when you're in the truck, you have to think about, like, okay, so I need to go around to this side of the property to grab whatever it is that I need, like a bag of compost, and then what's the quickest way from point A to point B? It's a little bit squirrelier now, until we get used to it. Okay, next video was planting 10 containers at our city's splash pad. So yeah, we went down to the splash pad where we did a previous video, right? Or a couple of them.
Just one, 2 years ago.
Yeah, we didn't do them last year because of COVID, and they are planning on reopening this year.
They wanted us to plant them, but it like opened and then closed like immediately afterward.
Yeah.
So, and I told them too, I was like, I wouldn't spend the money on plants.
Yeah, it was kind of not worth it last year to invest in that. But yeah, so we just went down there. They had them all prepped and ready for us, kind of just out there sitting in a row, which was very nice. We just planted them up. Oh, and we went to the garden center. We picked out all the plants for it. So Tanya said, top comment, that's it. Now we all want a video of Aaron shopping for flowers and doing up some pots or something. He was so funny. Which is like,
I don't know. I didn't feel like I was being different or
You're being yourself.
I guess.
Yeah. Anna said, great containers. Laura, you mentioned using BT in the past for bugs on Supertunias. Is there a difference between dead bug versus BT? Is one better or preferred over the other? Pros and cons to both of them. BT is awesome. It's Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a bacteria naturally found occurring in the soil. It's a natural product, and it only affects caterpillars that ingest it. So it's a very targeted, specific insecticide, and it does not hurt beneficials. So it doesn't hurt honeybees and whatever else it might hit. But it only takes care of the budworm. We deal with both budworm and aphids on Supertunias and Superbells and some other things that we use in containers, Gaillardia, Calendula. We deal with bugs on those. So when you use the Captain Jack's dead bug, it's a spinosad based organic, it's for organic gardening still. So it's not like a really harsh chemical, but it isn't as specific. It will, like if you spray it at the wrong time of day and there's honeybees on your plants, it will hurt the honeybees. You have to be just responsible when you're using it. The nice thing about it is that it will take care of both of your caterpillars and your aphid problems. So if you deal with both, then you only have to spray it with one thing, which is way more efficient. But you just want to make sure you're spraying them at dusk when all the beneficials are gone, and then you have no problem. So those are the pros and cons of the two.
And it's only contact for beneficials, right?
Right.
So
it's not like it doesn't have a really strong residual that hangs out on the plant forever. Some of the synthetics that you might use have a stronger residual, which I'm not 100% opposed to using if you use them responsibly, because when you deal with things like spider mites, like I will use what works for spider mites, because if we don't, they will decimate our garden.
Right.
And there's no point in gardening if you're, if you can't like take that population down or annihilate it. Dazzle Them For Me said, are you no longer using the Proven Winners continuous release fertilizer in your pots? Why the switch to Flower Tone? We're just going to be doing a bunch of experimenting. I may not use Flower Tone in all of our containers, but here's the thing. I would like to try to find a way to cut back on the amount of fertilizer, not the amount necessarily, but the frequency of fertilizing our containers, because it can become an enormous chore, especially when you've got a lot of containers. So we're kind of going with a different approach and trying a slow feed type fertilizer. So we're going to do the Flower Tone and then maybe try doing it on an once a month scale. We're going to just see what happens. The only negative, or the only thing I think that might be hard about that, is that once the leaf canopy, the plants are covering the top of our pots with the soil, obviously soil in your pots is all covered, it's hard to get that fertilizer down into your soil through that canopy. So that's the only thing. But lots of people, like those bird feed, I have one, the bird feeder funnel rather, that closes on the bottom. And so you can fill up the hopper and you can stick the funnel down and then release. Let some of it go down and then stick it down somewhere else, release.
Sure.
That might work.
Will you be putting too much fertilizer in
one spot?
One spot?
Well, maybe you just don't put too much. You just a little bit, release, and you do it in lots of different spots of the pot.
Yeah. Is that going to be too time consuming though?
I don't know.
It'll just be an experiment
More
this
time
year.
consuming than filling up our tank and watering every week with fertilizer.
Well, you know, here's the thing, is that on scale, you know, on a large scale, filling up the tank and having stuff all over the place, yeah, it's a big pain in the butt. For most gardeners who are filling up like a
watering cans
watering
and stuff.
can, you know, like a 3-gallon watering can or something, it's really not a huge inconvenience to go do it once a week necessarily.
Right.
So it just depends on what scale you're gardening at too.
And what method you want to use.
Yeah.
You know, the flower tone is an organic feed. So if that makes a difference in flowers and containers, to me, I'm like, well, you know, just feed your flowers.
Sure.
And you're not eating them, so who cares? I don't know. I try to keep pretty, I don't know,
open mind
about fertilizers and things to use out in the garden. We try to be smart and responsible, but also we like things to succeed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. LS said, I have tried hard to buy. I started that question wrong. Let me try again. I have tried hard to buy aquapots in support of Jack Barnwell Design and his great work, but they are not available in my area and cost a fortune to ship from Proven Winners. Do you have another recommendation of a terracotta or glazed self-watering pot? Really don't want plastic in the yard. I think the best thing you can do, I don't know of any other self-watering, do you?
No, no. I mean, that was what Jack was trying to do, is he
found this gap in the market.
Because he helped design the Crescent Garden ones as well, but they were plastic. And so, and he had customers that, you know, he told me, he was like, I can't put plastic pots in front of these people's houses, because he's designing for these people who have $1 million homes.
That own like Behr Paint.
Yeah, right.
And Home Depot.
Yeah. So he's like, I need something, you know, more sturdy that looks, you know, that looks better. So yeah, I don't know. There's really no.
I think the best thing you could do, honestly, is talk with your local garden center, because that IGCs, independent garden centers, can carry them. So if you can get your local garden center to like look into it for you, then they may be able to bring in some, and they may want to carry some in their own garden center. Yeah, and then they can get like the bulk shipping discount or whatever, you know, and that'll cut the cost down for you.
That's true. That is the best solution.
Yeah. Glenda said, do Superbena do better in containers, or can you put them in the landscape? I think they do equally as well wherever you put them. I think you can put them anywhere and they'll do great for you. In fact, I plant them in both locations.
It seems like kind of a sleeper of a plant to me, and not in terms of like it's not showy, but the opposite. Like, I feel like Superbenas are not marketed as much as Supertunias or Superbells. Like, I don't think people buy them in as big in numbers, but they
need
are
to be supers
awesome.
though. They need to be Superbenas, because I've tried other verbenas and they're just straggly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we planted Superbena Snowdrift last year. Snowdrift. Whiteout. Get my names mixed up. It's Supertunia Vista Snowdrift. Superbena Whiteout. So Superbena Whiteout in the ground last year, and Superbena Sparkling Amethyst. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I've got some pictures we can throw up on the screen of that whiteout. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal. It was a beautiful plant. Cheryl said, great video, but am I the only one who can't get on board with Supertunias? I've never liked petunias, and this is just another version. You know, I think that there's always, every gardener has a plant that they're like, yeah, you know. And so I get it. Like, Supertunias may not be your thing.
They are a thing for a lot of people, though.
They are for a lot. It was kind of like the big hibiscus. I don't really, and I don't know. Like, I've slowly gained a little bit of appreciation for the plant, and I do have some in my landscape. But it was one of those that I was like, this looks like I'm trying way too hard to be a tropical climate when I'm not. You know what I mean?
I like them a lot, though.
Yeah, see, but most people do.
Yeah.
And then what was the other? Dianthus. It comes out with fury, like in a good way. Beautiful, like big show of blooms, and then it's like, meh.
Yeah.
you know?
That's true. Well, and red is probably another good example of things that you don't really love, like red blooms in the garden. You're not a huge fan of. However, red is pretty popular at the garden center in terms of people that buy it.
Yeah, I think everybody just has their preferences in
Yeah.
the garden. So Super Tunias just may not be your thing. But have you tried the Super Tunia like Bordeaux? Or can I interest you in the Super Tunia? I got my hands on some of the Priscilla improved for 2022. I'm so excited to plant those. They're so pretty.
Do you have them now, or are they coming?
I do. I have them now.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I have them out there. Star Song says, do you have any advice for young people wanting to work in greenhouses or garden centers but may not know too much about plants? Just go apply. Like, you will learn so much. I mean, start gardening at home if you can, in containers if you have to, because you gain a lot of working knowledge that way. I think working knowledge, experience is one of the most valuable things that you can have in the garden. And I say that because that's all I have. I don't have a horticulture degree, but everybody learns differently though too. And I learn by doing, and I learn by failing a lot, because I have failed a lot through all of my gardening years, and you figure it out. You slowly figure out what you did wrong and what you could improve on and all of those things. But I learned so much working at my parents' garden center. I mean, I grew up in their garden, so I did learn. I knew about plants, but it was surprising how surface level I knew things until I worked at the garden center. Because all of a sudden you have people coming up to the counter bringing you a piece of their plant that has a bug on it or a disease, and you had to know how to know what was going on with that plant in order to help them fix it. And I remember just standing there, like, listening to my dad help. I mean, that was the best education ever.
Sure.
My dad was behind the counter, and he was just like IDing all of these problems all over the place. And so after a while, you start soaking that in, and that was one of my most favorite parts. I loved working the counter, like weighing out bulk seeds and helping people with issues like that. And then I learned a ton while I was watering. I made it a point to read tags instead of just like standing there. You know, I see so many people just like standing and watering, just, you know, blindly, whatever, behind the hose. If they could utilize that time to read plant tags and learn about specific types of trees, I learned how to ID trees based on leaf shape from that, because here I was, like, this huge encyclopedia right in front of me, just sitting on racks. I could just look at the leaf or the bark of the tree and could figure out, like, oh, that's a red bud, or that's a, you know, whatever.
Sure.
That's a Zelkova, or whatever the tree was. I would never have been able to do that had I not just been standing there with, like, time on my hands to think about those kinds of things. Anyway, yeah, so my advice would be just to start gardening at any capacity that you can, or whatever capacity you can, and go apply at your garden center. Like, a lot of people start without any knowledge. In fact, I think most garden center owners want you to not have knowledge. That's how I prefer it, because then they can train you the way they want you to take care of stuff. You always shy away from well, I'm a master gardener. Yeah. I'm like, then you have opinions and methods that you want to do that's very hard to unlearn or to avoid if somebody else wants you to do it a different way. Anyway. Okay, next video is finally planting 21 huge trees on the new property. So all those trees that we've had sitting out there for how long? Like months, it feels like. Maybe not months,
well,
but
some of them we've had
months.
Over the winter.
Yeah, we had them since last year.
They weren't sitting out there, but we've had them over. Yeah, for a long time.
So we had, how many? 21 that we planted that day. And we rented an auger. And between Paul, Aaron, and I, we got them all in the ground. And Paul has since run drip to all of them. So, like, we're hands off now at this point. It's so nice. So now I know when we have windy days, which is about all the time, it feels like, I don't have to worry about going out there and picking them back up and making sure that they're wet and, you know, not all dried out. Cheddar, you having some issues? It's like coughing up a fur ball over there. He's good. Top comment from Gypsy Miller. It would be so fun if Aaron put together a time lapse of the space you toured today. Filmed for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Amazing that you can envision how it will all look in the future. Very inspiring. Yeah,
I've thought about that. We need to start gathering footage. I need to get a folder together and start putting all the footage, because do you remember the video where we, well, it was titled like We Bought Something New, and we kind of teased the gator at the beginning. Oh. It was the gator that we didn't end up, the nice gator. Yeah. Like, that one was like 3 times more, maybe not 3 times more than what we paid, but it was like the deluxe.
Yeah, we were just trying it out.
We were just trying it out
Yeah.
because they had it, you know. But anyway, so we kind of drove by and teased that. But remember I got drone footage in that video of the land just like barren. That was early 2020
Yeah.
or late 2019.
No, it was 2020. We didn't buy it until spring. Like, we didn't own it.
Well, it was in the works for so long. I'm so confused on the timeline.
Yeah. We've been
Because-
talking to our neighbors about it for the last, since
Yeah.
Benjamin was born.
Yeah.
That's when we started the
Right.
conversations
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it 3 years ago, 3.5 almost.
And we
now.
couldn't say anything about it because we couldn't nail down like the price, and then we couldn't sign on it for this reason or another.
Right.
But all that to say, there's footage of it just barren, and you know we've done lots of drone footage and stuff. So I just need to compile all the like your cut flower garden. I got drone footage of that, so we can kind of show the transition over the years.
We need to pick a point and take like pictures from specific points and
Yeah.
remember, like, document what that point was.
Right.
So we can take that exact, that's our problem always.
Yeah.
Whenever we want to do it before and after, we can never figure out like where to, anyway.
Yeah,
We
where
should-
to take the picture from.
Yeah, we should figure out where to take a picture from and do that every time. Big Bunny said, sort of related question, please. I recently purchased a number of saplings from the Arbor Day website. They're much more affordable, but definitely tiny. When purchasing larger trees as you have, it's time that you're buying, correct? Are there any other advantages to buying the larger trees? Do they root in better, for example? Thank you so much. No, I think that most people would argue that getting them earlier on is better, like in terms of getting them to root in, and a lot of times they grow pretty quickly, like they start to root in quicker. It can be a little bit more shocking for a large tree, shocking to its root system, and it can take a little longer for them to acclimate to their new area. But yeah, I think basically you're paying for two things. You're paying for time, so you just saved yourself however many years it would take you to get it to that size, and you're also paying for somebody to professionally grow it, and to prune it properly and have it shaped nicely, and all that sort of thing. You didn't have to do that. They did it. So those are like the two benefits, I think.
That's true. Most of the time, there's like a nice leader
Yeah.
when you're buying a big
And they're
tree.
for the most part, evenly branched. Like they've really taken the time to make them look good.
Yeah.
MW said, your neighbors behind the high tunnels have some amazing large green trees creating a nice block. I wonder, do you know what kind of trees those are? Yes. First of all, though, those high tunnels, so we are continuing our arborvitae hedge. So you know it's on the west side of our new property, along where those homes are being built. We're going to turn the corner. I don't know, did my mom say if she could get those ordered
I'm
for
actually
us?
texting you right now.
Are
I
you?
forgot to ask her.
So either this year, if we can get our hands on them, or next year, we're going to turn the corner and continue that arborvitae hedge down to block like the back of our fenced area. You know, we have a fence behind our orchard, and we've got like palletized items. It's very organized, very clean, and we have the high tunnels, but we wanted to continue the arborvitae hedge just for, you know, our neighbors. We wanted to block that for them, even though their house doesn't look at it. It's just their barn that looks at it. In fact, our stuff that's behind the fence looks at their stuff that's behind the barn. So it's pretty compatible, but we wanted to like make sure that it just looks, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I kind of wanted a block there too. I didn't really think about it long enough, I guess, when we put that little road in, the exterior road. I should have thought, because I was just thinking that side has the nice, you know, hedge that our neighbors have with the lindens and the pines.
Corinthian lindens and pines, Austrian pines.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what that hedge is. Sorry, I should have answered that first, but
But there's a whole section that's not hedged off, and that's, I should have thought more about.
well, I didn't think about it either,
Putting
but we have
something
plenty
there.
of space. Those North Pole arbs only take up at maximum 5 foot of space width-wise. So we can just turn the corner and come down as far as we need to come, and it'll block the high tunnels and the back of the
That's
fence.
such a huge wall of arbs.
They're doing so well though.
Yeah.
Like our other wall is going to be a wall, like an actual wall here pretty quick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jackie said, do you worry that any of those huge trees will end up casting too much shade on other trees near them? How are you going to plant the flower beds? I imagine things are going to be nearly full sun this year, but have dense shade in 10 years. And it will be an evolving process that way. Yeah, we're going to probably have to switch some things out eventually, but it's going to take a long time. I'm not worried about the trees shading each other out though.
I don't think
really.
they're close enough to where
No.
things will really shade.
And we don't
each other
plan
that
on
much.
having it be like a totally dense area where you can't see, you know, one thing apart from the other.
Yeah.
You know, But yeah, I mean, every garden space starts out that way. I mean, take the west side, for example, near our house, where we put those red point maples in and the network of boxwood hedging. Like right now I have supertunias planted underneath them, but I don't think we're gonna even be able to get away with that for very much longer.
No, in fact, I was looking at it and I was thinking,
Like 3 of those get shade for a good part of the day now.
yeah, like maybe next year we need to start putting in something more shade
Surefire
tolerant.
begonias or something like that that can do like sun and shade.
Yeah, right.
But you know, you start off with these smaller trees and then they last for, you know, 3 years or whatever. The wind is picking up. We
Yeah.
might have to move. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but that's just what happens. Baby gardens just usually are full sun and then they turn more shady, hopefully, as the years go on. Kylie said, will you seed the grass pathways directly over the mulch? No, we're gonna have to move the mulch. The mulch is too barky and the grass seed needs to make contact with the soil. So we're gonna have to scoop that mulch right back up and move it somewhere else.
Next year.
Next year. Samantha said,
Can we till it?
oh, maybe
I wonder if we could just till it all in.
till it in.
And then pack it down.
I
I mean, that'd be way faster.
Yeah.
Because it's all, I mean, it'll just compost.
right.
That bark.
Compost.
Compost.
Yeah.
If you're English.
Samantha said, happy Mother's Day, Laura, and all the moms out there. Laura, do you fertilize your plants in the high tunnel that are waiting to be planted outside? We should. Thanks for the reminder. Actually, we should throw some plant tone in all of those cans.
Yeah, we should.
So, yeah, we should probably be fertilizing those. Gatti said, what are you waiting for? Just seed the grass. Well, I wish it was that easy. We are waiting for a sprinkler system right now, and I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. We're on Benny's radar. Is that Benny right now calling you?
No, it's somebody from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh.
Probably spam.
So yeah, we need a sprinkler system first, and in order to do that, there was so many different things that needed to happen first. And right now, we're still waiting on Chad is going to finish up leveling and smoothing out that whole area where our front yard was to connect the 2 properties, and then I think he's going to bring in some soil to kind of work up the sides, right? Because we actually have a little bit of a dip. So we're waiting for Chad to finish, and then Benny just needs to come in and run the sprinkler system.
Yeah, and it's you know, those guys they're very busy and they have a lot of stuff going on, and so whenever, I don't know when Chad's gonna finish up. The other thing is we're kind of putting other things on Chad's plate. Like Chad needs to hurry up and get the greenhouse or the gazebo
The concrete pad.
taken out and then level that out so that the concrete guy can get in and then he can go
We are like
work in the other.
every worker's nightmare. Like
Kind of.
anybody who comes in, we're like, oh, hey, by the way, can you dig this tree up for me really
Yeah,
quick?
can you do this one thing over here?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, can you take a look at this?
Can you dig me a big hole over here real quick? Yeah, just like random stuff in there.
That is super annoying.
Yeah, they're probably like rolling their eyes, but they're always so accommodating and nice about it.
Yeah.
Bev said, are the new pathways going to be brick or mulch? Neither. They're going to be grass. With a robot mower, because that's the only way that I think I can do grass in pathways. It has to be like trimmed all the time. When grass looks mangy and overgrown to me, like in between mowings, I feel like it makes everything look
Mangy.
I like grass to be very tidy, but I like grass. I like lawns. I feel like they bring weight to an area and peace. Yards with no grass, to me, like I like to look at them. I think they're beautiful. Some are beautiful, but I don't know that I would actually feel at peace living in it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like my eye needs a place to rest, and that's kind of what our grass and gravel areas do for me. Is they bring rest to my eye.
Sure.
And peace. I don't know. Jennifer said, love your channel. Why do you cut the wire basket off the root ball? Aaron left the wire basket on one of the root balls, so we're going to see what happens.
So yeah, I don't think that you need to take off. We looked it up, and
After that one got left.
well, one of them got planted.
It wasn't the side of it. We got the side of it off. I think it was just the bottom, right? Because we cut the side metal off.
No, the side, the wire basket was on the whole thing.
Oh, it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But everything online seemed to make it sound like you can plant it with the wire basket.
Like it'll rust out, is what you said.
It'll rust out,
Which
and
it would eventually.
The roots will, because the wire basket is not like, it's not like a fine mesh. I mean, it's really big, And so the roots will just grow around it, or break it.
We took them off everything except for one.
Yeah, so we'll find out if that
and
one
those
dies.
same ones were B&B. They had burlap on them, and they had the twine around the trunk. We got all the twine removed, all of that.
Everything's online said that as long as the twine is not girdling the trunk, then you're fine. You can plant it with the wire basket.
So if we have 2 blue spruces that look gorgeous and beautiful, and one that's like stunted, we'll know why. Dana said, "Where's the pool going?" Nowhere.
15 minutes away at your parents', 10 minutes away at your parents' house.
Jill said, "Is it time for Benjamin to have a small space for his own garden like you and your brother had? He seems so much older than 3. I think that he's still too young. I think that he's interested in helping, but not like on one thing specifically. For very long. He's a 3-year-old, yeah. And he can help all day long on whatever he wants to do out here. I give him a watering can often. I give him a pump sprayer that's just full of water, and he just goes around the greenhouse when I'm watering and sprays stuff, and me occasionally. But I don't think that his interest is focused enough yet for his own space. But he will get one. Him and Samantha both. Kimlin said, "Hi, how are the potatoes doing? Please show us your progress report." So I planted 4 rows, 60 feet long, 240 feet of potatoes, and they're all up. They're all looking really good. Okay, next video is planting annuals in the ground plus 10 more self-watering containers. So in that video is when we planted the Supertunia mulberry charm beneath the maple trees on the west side, and then we also went to our church and planted up the 10 self-watering containers that we took down there 1 year ago. Did we take them down last spring, right, Aaron? Not 2 springs ago.
I don't even remember.
I think it was last spring.
I think it was 2 springs ago.
No, because I think this last year was the first year we had these concrete pots, right? I don't know either exactly.
So
a while
confused.
ago. Anyway, Tracy said, "Can you do a Weigela pruning video? I love my Weigela, but this spring there are no blooms." Nope, not one. So typically you don't have to prune on Weigelas. You really want to site those somewhere where they can just grow to their full size. They bloom on old wood, so if you do want to prune on them, do it right after they bloom. It's kind of like your forsythias and lilacs, so you want to do the same thing. So if your Weigela has absolutely no blooms, it could have been pruned at the wrong time of year, or if you have deer or something like that that feed on your plants, they could have eaten the buds for this year's blooms. That's just a couple of things. Kind of the same for hydrangeas, the ones that bloom on old wood. Well, all the ones that bloom on old wood. H. Peters says, "Looking great as always. What happened to the crabapple tree that was beside your vegetable garden?" It died, like random. It just died. Like, it bloomed beautifully last year. It looked good all year. There was absolutely no signs that anything was wrong with that tree. It had water to it consistently. The root ball, like when they dug it up this spring, looked fine. Like, the Venus dogwood, I wonder if something was eating on the roots because it had hardly any roots left, and that's why it was struggling. But this one, it was not that way. I don't know what happened. So, I mean, we didn't even have a harsh winter or anything. So, I don't know. I did recently, though, buy a North Winds maple that's absolutely beautiful, and I was going to put it in the big pot near our kitchen entryway. It's kind of behind me to my left. But that Japanese maple that I have in that pot, it looks like the top died out, but it's starting to sprout new leaves all over. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to ride that one out a little bit. It may not have enough energy to like completely rebound, but I bought that North Winds to replace that maple before I realized there was new growth on it. So I popped that down in the hole of the crabapple just to see if I liked it, and I'll put a picture on the screen. I took a picture the other night. And it looks really pretty, but I don't know if I necessarily want to put that one there because I really liked the blooms on that crabapple in the spring in that spot. So we'll see. Pamela said, "Love watching your videos. Can you make a video on plants that cause skin irritation? I noticed you do not use gloves when planting all of the time. Do you ever get any skin rashes or irritation from plants?" I have only ever had a rash from a plant one time, and it was from that euphorbia. It's like blue colored. I don't know what the name of it. Is there like a donkey tail euphorbia? Anyway, it was a euphorbia that we had in our brick circle area when we moved in, and I was taking it out. I was wearing gloves though when I was taking the stuff out because there was a bunch of cactus in there, and I must have done one of these because I had like blisters across my face. I had blisters on my eye. So I must have done like, you know, to get my hair out of the way. I had blisters up on my forehead. So I realized how much I touch my face. Like I touch my face all the time, like getting my hair out of my face or just whatever the case may be. But I had a rash everywhere. And that's the only time it's happened. But no, I don't wear gloves, and I typically don't get bothered by anything out in the garden. We don't normally talk about it because it's usually just not a thing that is on my radar. Typically. We just lost the sun.
Yeah.
It's a lot chillier out here without the sun shining down. Chelsea said, you gave the bulbs to your friend and I was wondering what protocol is for replanting them. Will she plant them in the summer or wait until fall? Do you leave the bulbs in the sun if the leaves are still green to soak up energy, or store them right away? The best thing to do if you're moving bulbs before they've soaked up the sun is just to replant them. And that's what she did. Got them home, put them in the ground. I mean, it disrupts their growth, of course, but it's best just to get them in the ground. They can soak up whatever energy they can through those leaves, and then as soon as they die off and yellow and brown and wither, just cut them off like you normally, like they've been there, like they had already been planted there. So I think we'll probably put together a video of moving some bulbs here pretty quick, because there are some that I want to move like specifically, and they weren't like a ton. That's the thing. Like we had so many bulbs in containers, we haven't had time. I would love to plant those all out on the new property, but it's so underdeveloped right now. We don't have water set up to everywhere. It just doesn't make sense for us to do that this year. If we had like drip everywhere and I knew that the bulbs were going to be watered and they wouldn't die, then I would definitely allocate some time to do that. But this year it was fun just to give stuff to friends that wanted them, and then I know that they're gonna probably survive. Kamini said, love your videos. I noticed you didn't plant any super bells in the church containers. Have you given up on them in self-watering containers because of their drainage issue or because of their lack of compatibility with supertunias? For me, it's lack of compatibility in terms of growth and in watering. And I know like there are people out there that get it to work. I don't know if it's a climate thing or if it's just a me thing, like me as a gardener. There's usually one or two things that every gardener struggles with, and that could just be mine. Getting super bells to survive with other things that I have to water on a more frequent basis. Super bells typically like really good drainage, and they like to dry out a tiny bit between watering. Supertunias here, we have to water them without fail every single day deeply. Some of them in hanging baskets, like down at the garden center. When I don't do hanging baskets very much here. I just don't really like hanging baskets.
You're saying supertunias need a lot of water?
No. I'm not saying they need a lot of water, but like in small hanging baskets when it's 105 degrees outside, at the garden center we had to water them twice a day to keep them happy.
Sure.
Super bells would not handle that. They wouldn't like that amount of water.
Well, when we planted the hay racks along the front fence, we had those watering twice a day in the heat of the summer.
Yeah.
And they did awesome.
Right, but we didn't have super bells. Also,
we might have been able to back off a little bit too, but it's hard when you have success with one method, you know, changing it's tough.
Right. Well, it depends on how much your pot is holding, like how the reservoir, like those hay racks and in small hanging baskets, they don't have the ability to retain as much water. So you have to water them more frequently when it's really hot and windy. And we get no rain here typically. But super bells also for me, the vigor issue. They're not as vigorous as superbenas or supertunias, and so I find myself having to like trim on the supertunias so that the super bells have room, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that. I want to plant things together that can just go together, and I don't have to worry about trimming things or, you know.
Sure.
But we do still plant super bells, but I just typically plant them with other like-minded things like diamond euphorbias. I planted those in your mom's pots last year. Super bells and diamond frost or diamond snow, I can't remember. And they did so great. So if you just plant things together that like a little bit less water.
We should do more testing though with super bells.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, try to throw a bunch of different scenarios at it, like giving more space between the super bells and supertunias, and because I see a lot of other people that have success with it.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I see a lot of people.
It's like we're doing something differently that they're not doing.
They're doing something wrong. But I don't know, there's oftentimes too, like I want to choose things in our containers that we can report positive results back. You know what I mean? Like I want to plant things that I know are going to be pretty and that I'm not going to struggle with. So maybe we should test this out on a smaller scale. Turbo Pixie said, can you explain this for us? When a tag gives the plant width as say 24 inches wide, does that mean 24 inches overall? thus plant the neighboring plant 12 inches away, or you plant the neighbor plant 24 inches away. So it depends on how big your neighboring plant is supposed to get. So if you have a 24-inch spread plant, that means 12 inches on center. So from the center of the plant, it's going to grow out 12 inches on either side. So if you have another plant that, let's say, wants to grow 24 inches, then definitely you'll want to space it 24 inches apart so that they can both grow their 12 inches on center toward each other and they won't hit each other, if that makes sense. So that's typically what it means. Like if you have a 24-inch spread plant planted here and then one that spreads out 36 inches, then you'll want to plant, let's see, this one will need a foot, this one will need 18 inches. So you would want 2.5 feet between those two plants in order for them just to barely touch. And then you can space them accordingly. If you want to space them out further, did I get my math right on that? I think I did.
Wait, you're saying both plants?
If you wanted to, let me explain it again to you, see if it makes sense, okay? Because it may not make sense. So you have one plant that's growing 24 inches wide right here.
Okay.
So it needs 12 inches on center.
Right.
Okay. And then you have another plant that grows 36 inches wide. So you need 18 inches on either side. So essentially you need 2.5 feet planted between these two plants because you've got a foot and then 18 inches on top of that.
Yeah, if you want them to touch.
If you want them just to barely touch. If you want them further apart, then you need to go like 3 feet or whatever, you know. So it did make sense.
I think so,
Like the
yeah.
one time.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Creative Gardening said, what's the plan for the space between the urns and opposite to it? Some kind of a ground cover? You guys can try color blocking in that area. You know, I don't know what I want to do on the west side exactly. Except,
Annuals.
yeah, Aaron wants us to do annuals. It's a struggle for me because I love the boxwood hedging and I love the urns and I love that they're so like pristinely sitting there looking pretty.
I still think that they would be pretty with annuals, like low growing.
Yeah, I think it needs to be something. I just got pooped on. Oh. Gross. Do you see that?
Oh, that's so gross.
Get it, I have a rag right there. Can you hand it to me? It got on my pillow too. Oh, I think I'm making it worse. Look.
That's gross. Don't look up.
Okay, what are the odds it would happen twice?
Not good. Unless there's a nest right above you, then
There's no nest. I
then it
just
would be
looked.
high.
Okay. Comes with the territory. That could have been my face. Thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah, could have been right on top of your head.
Gross. All right. I don't even know where I was at now. Oh, talking about the west side. So yeah, I'm having a hard time just because I love the way it looks right now, just with the mulch and the pretty things, the structure just does it for me.
But the nice thing is if you plant annuals,
then you can get rid of them.
then, you know,
Yeah.
they're just a single year and then...
Well, it's kind of like the moon garden. I'm so glad we went with mostly annuals just to try it out.
Yeah.
And it ended up not being my thing at all. Not
Yeah.
in that space. I've seen some beautiful moon gardens out there, but that was the wrong spot to do it. We did plant some really beautiful perennials that you'll see this week on that side on the far end. And we kind of talked about like, well, we'll just slowly start moving our way down, which is probably what we'll do.
Yeah, I think you could just test out a bunch of different stuff, make it pretty colorful down there, and just see, I don't know, just make it like colorful alley. Go the opposite of white.
Yeah. Well, I thought about doing like in between the urns, like a big gob of hydrangeas, the same one.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a continuous thing again.
I think that will take away from the urns.
Probably. You're probably right.
It would be pretty though.
Yeah. Next video was testing out some new annuals. In that video, I planted up the big black square estate planters from Crescent Garden that we have out flanking one of the openings of our cut flower garden. I had some double yellow daffodils in there for spring, and I enjoyed that color so much that I decided to go with an all yellow and white kind of color theme out there because it contrasts the black so well, and I just really loved it. So I'm also trying out several new annuals from Proven Winners in that container. And I think it's gonna be like, they're gonna be put through their paces because those containers get sun 100% of the day, and they're also exposed to our incredibly tough winds around here. So we'll just see how they hold up through the summer. Whitney said, do you attach the water line for the drip up the container or just drape over the edge and connect? I have some counter height garden beds I want to add drip to this year, and I'm not sure how to best run line up to them. So in this case, we did, since we placed the containers, they were already planted with daffodils when we moved them out there. So we just ran drip up the back side of them and into the container. So You know, out there it's a little bit less important in terms of like seeing tubing. Honestly, these days I don't mind seeing tubing at all. Like when I see people who have run drip to their pots and I can see the tubing, I just think they're smart. I don't know, like I don't even mind seeing the tubing because I know how the plants react to it. They like consistency, so they just perform really well. And I know that the person that has those pots on drip, I know that they, I don't know, probably feel really good that they don't have all of that maintenance. And I just think it's just so smart to do that if you can. So anyway, if you have garden beds that are already set up and there's no way to get up underneath them, that's how we typically like to run our drip if we can. Before we put soil in the pots, we'll go up through the drain hole so that you don't see the tubing. It comes out the bottom on the ground. And then we like pop our pots up on pot feet, or they're usually on like gravel or dirt where you can kind of like scoot some of the gravel out of the way so that the drip line isn't pinched on the ground or anything like that. That's like the best way because then you can't see the drip tubing. But if you have to come up the back side of your raised bed or whatever, I would say just do it. Just drape it over the side. Linda said, yes, I agree with Aaron. Boxwood hedges around the cut flower garden. It's a perfect touch. Aaron was mentioning when he came out, I wanted him to see the pots in the end. He said that he thought boxwood hedging would be really pretty around the exterior. And I think I had that in one of my plans. And then I kind of X'd it out because we decided not to do anything formal out there because we didn't want the maintenance. But I think, I don't know, I think we should just go with it. I think it's a great idea too. Like that, my mind always goes to boxwood hedge. Like, can we put a hedge there? Let's do it. Can we put a hedge of boxwoods or a hedge of lavender or whatever? So I think we're gonna try. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it this year, if it's gonna be a next year project, but it would really do a couple of things. I think it would really set that space apart. Like it would make it look more compartmentalized, like a room somehow. It would give some definite definition, and it might help cut down, maybe, on a tiny bit of wind.
It won't cut down on any wind.
I'm just like, I think it'll cut down.
The arbs growing will probably help. Once the arbs reach their full 20 feet, you're supposed to get like 15 to 18 feet.
10 to 15, I thought.
10 to 15? Oh, well.
Susan and Dennis said, if you plant sod within your 15-foot wide paths in the growing field, will you be able to drive your equipment, your gator, your tractor, etc., repeatedly on those grass paths? You should be able to.
15 feet wide means that you're not going to be, the wheels aren't going to be in the exact same spot all the time. And we're not going to be, it's not like we're driving on them multiple times a day.
Well, it wouldn't be driven on with the tractor, although you're going to have turf tires put on the tractor, right? So that you could go on the, are you?
I'm not planning on it.
Oh.
I'm gonna test it out.
Sure. The gator is pretty lightweight, and it doesn't have like really heavy duty tread or anything like that. I don't know though, I drive that out there a lot. And it sits on there a lot when I'm working in the cut flower garden.
But we've driven the gator everywhere else in the yard, and it doesn't seem to make any lines or anything.
Not unless you repeatedly go over the same thing over and over again.
Which a pathway you kind of would. I'm not worried about it though.
No.
It's not something that concerns me. I think it'll be fine.
Terry said, I'm still unclear on how you determine how long to run the drip tubing each day. Any advice you can offer on how one determines this? I think you just have to start somewhere and then adjust.
Yeah, there's no way to tell someone.
Yeah, it's so dependent
put your finger in the soil and see if it's moist.
Yeah.
If it is, then you're good.
So it depends on pot type, like what kind of pot you have, what it's made out of, what kind of soil you're using, what kind of exposure it has, if it's in an area that's exposed to wind or not. All of those things, whatever kind of plants you're using will make a difference as well. There's some that it will use a lot, like the tut grasses, potato vines. There are some that use very little, like super bells and succulent type things, those sorts of things. Don't need it as often. So it's just one of those things that I wish I could tell everybody, you know, run your drips for X amount of time every day for, you know, this size of pot or whatever. It's just so subjective. Is that the right word? Subjective?
Yeah, based on your area.
Yeah. So just start, like we typically start with like 30 minutes and then we adjust up or down.
Yeah, there's a lot of, with the new way that we're doing it, a lot of those brown loops that you're doing, we run for about 20 minutes.
Okay, so they just get a little more water.
If that's helpful, is just like a starting point. But some of them we run every day and some we run every other day, depending on if it's holding on to moisture or not. You really have to put your finger in the ground or in the soil in a container to find out.
Right. Emma said, when you try out new plants, do you give feedback to proven winners? We do. Well, they see, you know, they see
it's one of the reasons that we get new plants.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones. They send out the new plants for like 2022, how we've got our hands on some of the new stuff. They send them out to a lot of different like influencers, garden writers, bloggers, growers, a lot of like university programs get these things. So they just go out all over. And the reason for that is because we are all over the place. And so they can have people in many different climates try these plants out and report back on how they did.
They've already tested them out,
yeah,
but not on the same scale.
Right. In Shannon's Kitchen said, you mentioned that you're going to try the flower tone to fertilize less often, but I'm curious as to what you use on a weekly basis. So what we have been using on a weekly basis is the Proven Winners water-soluble plant food, which they actually recommend to use every 3rd watering, which if we followed those instructions, we would be watering every 3 days.
Yeah.
Because we have to water all the time.
During the heat of the summer.
During the heat of the summer. We always have just kept it on a once a week basis, but I really would like to cut that down even further. We'll see. I still will be fertilizing a number of things normally with the Proven Winners water-soluble plant food while we are in our testing phase. And we may just continue with that too if our test doesn't work out. We'll see. And the last video from this week was planting 2022 container recipes. So just like there's new plants for 2022, there's also new national recipes, which they have them every year. It's basically just, they aren't new plants necessarily, they're just new recipes. They're new combinations of plants that they kind of highlight just to give you guys ideas, give me ideas. It's inspiring, and I actually love to plant them because somebody else picked out the combination and I just get to plant it and see how it does. They've got so many different recipes on their website. If you go to provenwinners.com, then the tab that says gardening ideas, and then to the container gardening recipe search, I think is what it's called. There are like hundreds and hundreds of recipes in there that if you like have some time, I mean, you'll get sucked in looking at all these things. They're so beautiful. So I planted up all of the 22 national recipes, which there are 3 of. I planted each one twice, so once in a container and once in a hanging basket. So the ones in containers have a centerpiece plant, like a grass, a Prince Tut, and the hanging baskets don't. So anyway, top comment, oh, I don't know that I was indicating top comments on any of the videos, but the top comment from this one was from Dezori, sitting on my patio at 6 a.m. with a cup of coffee and garden ants are a great way to start the week. Good morning, GA groupies. Sweet. Anthony said, what is the easiest Proven Winner annual to grow? I love Supertunias. You nailed it. Supertunias are the easiest. Supertunia Vista Bubblegum, Vista Snowdrift, Vista Silverberry, Vista Fuchsia, Vista Paradise. Any Supertunia Vista you can grow is the easiest annual you'll be able to grow. Regan said, do you have a video all about drip tubing, like drip tubing for beginners? I'm curious how it works with containers.
Yeah, we've done those videos.
It's been so long though. Like, I wonder if we should do an
updated.
Yeah, a redo, because we have started to do ours differently with the brown drip tubing.
I want to say that we included that though.
Did we?
In the last, maybe not.
I can't even remember. We'll link whatever we got down below, but that's something we should definitely. In fact, my sister and her husband are moving from Washington to Idaho, like in this next month, and I told her we'd come and set all of her pots up on drip. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll film that. Opry said, what is done with all the old container soil if you do have to take it all out? Does it have to be thrown away, or can you add it into a compost bin to revitalize it? The only time that you wouldn't want to add it to a compost bin is if you've had a really bad bug problem or a disease in your plants. I would toss that soil if you've had an issue like that. Otherwise, you definitely add it to a compost pile. Next question was from the Hansher family. Enjoyed this so much as I do all of your videos. Please help with a recurring problem I have with getting the plants in at the right depth. Am I tamping them in too firmly? When I fill the pot with as much soil as you do, I can't seem to avoid having to take some out and then backfill, which leaves soil on the leaves and looks messy. Then when I water them in, the soil sinks even more. I know I'm probably just inept. You are not inept, but do you have any advice? So what we do is we fill the container to within just a couple inches from the top. I press it down, not hard, but a little bit, just to kind of eliminate, because it settles so much, especially when you water it. So if you tamp that down, it eliminates a little bit of that settling, and then we top it up a little bit more if we need to. And then I just like stick my hand in and move soil out of the way and pop my root ball in, and typically I can just like tamp the soil around that root ball. And then occasionally, if we water really hard, it will settle the soil even more, and sometimes we have to add a little bit more in. Not as much as I used to, but I think the more you do it though, the more you don't have that problem for sure. That happened though at the splash pad for us this year, because you were watering, I mean, they tell you to water them in hard, and you did. I mean, it was like a pond
like
for a
soupy.
minute.
Yeah.
And then when everything settled out, there were some like channels and valleys on the top of those pots, and I filled them back. I just kind of like scooted soil around a little bit. And last one for this video, Rosa said, I trust you had a lovely Mother's Day. It was nice. It was just a really relaxed day. I finished dividing my dahlias. That was like my thing. I told Aaron, I want one thing for Mother's Day. I just want to go out to the barn and finish dividing these freaking dahlia tubers. It's taken me so long. I had 17 crates full of them, and oh, it was a big job. Anyway, I got it done. So that felt good, and we got to go plant some stuff for my mom. We're planting Aaron's mom's pots this week for her. The plants they won't arrive till tomorrow. I got some special super bells for your mom. I think she'll like them. Anyway, would you ever consider creating a garden answer calendar? Yes, in fact, that's one of the things we will be working on here pretty quick. It's something that we've thought about and talked about a lot. I mean, there are other things too. It's just one of those things we haven't been able to dedicate time to, but I think we will do that now. So be watching for that sometime soon. And that's it for today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and watching this video. We have a ton to do this week.
It'll be fun.
We're planting up the flower beds at our local community college where I went to college, and we're going to start that this week. It's going to be a big project, and I've got a ton of annuals sitting here, and we're going to plant dahlias this week, glads this week, lots of seedlings this week. It's just going to be a fun week. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.